Mandalorian Season 2 just had its season finale on Disney+. I really enjoyed the first season. I thought it was a really great breath of fresh air. It felt like very simple Star Wars, kind of back to basic Star Wars, which I liked very much. Not every bit of Star Wars has to be thematically rich and very complex. This show is mostly a Western. It felt like a samurai epic. It was really entertaining, and so naturally I was looking forward to seeing what else happened with Mando and little baby Yoda in Season 2. Now, this review is going to be filled with spoilers, so if you have yet to see any of this season, I'm going to be talking about each episode. So that is your warning, and I mean everything, so please make sure you've seen it. Having not directed a single episode last season, Jon Favreau made his first directorial contribution to The Mandalorian with episode 1, which I loved. Mando teams up with a marshal played by Timothy Olyphant, who has Boba Fett's armor. I really like that Boba Fett doesn't just show up in this show done and complete and ready to go. He doesn't just swoop in with his armor and he's just, there he is, he's Boba Fett. It's about finding the armor and getting it to the guy who's supposed to have it. It's not just that he's finished and complete and ready to go. And they team up with a band of Tusken Raiders to take down a giant crate dragon, that thing that Obi-Wan Kenobi made a noise to scare away the Tusken Raiders. Whichever version of Star Wars you may have watched, that noise has changed considerably throughout the years. And to sell the gargantuan size of this thing, Favreau went from the typical Star Wars aspect ratio of 2:35 all the way to full frame and shot that sequence in IMAX, which was really effective. This was the longest episode we had seen of The Mandalorian up until that point, and I believe it was actually the longest episode of the whole season. It felt like a little mini movie, and I really had a great time with it. The second episode was directed by Peyton Reed from the Ant-Man films, or Bring It On, if you're from that era, and I am. This was probably my least favorite episode in the season. That feels a little bit inconsequential looking back, but I'm okay with filler existing in this show. In fact, I said this in my review of Season 1, I actually like filler if it's entertaining. You have to look at this from the perspective of writers and directors. Do you really think every director who comes onto a show to direct one episode just wants to be burdened with the mythology? Of course not. A lot of these creatives want to have fun. And I can imagine it's probably really fun for the directors to just come into an episode and do their best with this arc, and then they're finished. It allows for the show to have a lot of different visions and not have to just feel confined to one mythology the whole time. Also, this is a very simple show, I must reiterate. This season is about Mando getting Baby Yoda to a Jedi. That's it. That's the entire point of this season. And every single episode in some way gets him one step closer to doing that. So inevitably at some point a Jedi would show up, and we'll talk about that later. A lot of people were very up in arms about the fish eggs thing. Here's my take on it. I was not offended by it, but I also didn't find it funny. It was played for a joke a lot of the times, and I never really laughed. I was just kind of like, oh yeah, he's eating a bunch of the babies. That doesn't really make me laugh, but it didn't make me mad either. They're movie props. I don't know. I did love one thing about this episode, though, and that's that it felt scarier. It had some horror elements to it with those spider creatures. The third episode was directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. She worked a little bit on Season 1 as well, and a lot of people were very excited for a few specific reasons, namely the Clone Wars characters like Bo-Katan, played by Katee Sackhoff, making an appearance and establishing themselves within this show. Katee Sackhoff was really good. I liked what they did with these characters, and it was really exciting. I didn't really feel that there was much emotional investment in this episode. It was just exciting to see those characters, and so it was a bit fan servicey, but it was fan servicey in a way that I was okay with. We'll talk about fan service a little bit later, specifically about the final episode. This episode was very action heavy, as is a lot of this season and the show in general, but it was well filmed. Bryce Dallas Howard did an impressive job with the action sequences, and seeing the frog lady reunited with her husband and seeing that their family would thrive was, I don't know. It was right here, guys. It was right there. Episode 4 was directed by Carl Weathers. That's right, Dylan himself from Predator and Apollo Creed is out here making Star Wars. What world do I live in? That is so fucking cool. And he did a phenomenal job. This is a really fun action episode. It's basically entirely about a siege on an Imperial base, but it has a great chase. This kind of stuff is a bit hollow, I guess, from a story perspective, but I really don't mind it. I've said this for years, and I mentioned it in my review of Season 1. I've, for a long time, imagined a Star Wars show or movie that isn't really about any of the Skywalker saga or any of the episodic films and just takes place on random parts of the universe with characters doing cool shit like a heist or a chase like this. And this show is giving me that. It's exactly what I've wanted out of Star Wars for a long time. Star Wars does not always have to be filled with emotional depth. As long as I care about the characters involved, really, I'm going to want to go on journeys with them. And this show makes me care about a character that I can't see his face for the majority of the show. Also, Baby Yoda with his arms up in that ship was just delightful. You know, there's very few times that I will actually use the word delightful anymore and actually mean it. Episode 5 was the first episode this season that wasn't written by Jon Favreau. He took on a lot of writing duties this season. This one was written and directed by Dave Filoni, and it's my favorite episode of the entire season. Ahsoka Tano, played by Rosario Dawson, shows up, and look, I really enjoyed that. Okay, like, look, I get it, all right? I have read tons of reviews, and we'll talk about that too in a second. I get that people are concerned about fan service and that the show might not have the heart that it needs to have and that it might rely on other things too much. This was incredible. This entire episode was directed extremely well. Dave Filoni, in my opinion, made the worst episode of season 1. That one episode with Bobby Cannavale's son in it or whatever, that was so bad. That was such a terrible episode. So to see him completely redeem himself and make something that felt like classic Star Wars, that had incredible imagery. That forest with the broken trees, Ahsoka and the moon and little Grogu, as we learn he's called. Really beautiful stuff. And I thought Rosario Dawson was really excellent as Ahsoka Tano. And that's a major character that a lot of fucking people like, to take that on your shoulders. And she did a very good job. And there was a reference to Thrawn as well. And after the recent announcements that there'll be 87 new Star Wars shows and one of them will be Ahsoka Tano, I'm assuming that Thrawn will play into that show. And they took this episode to set up a show. Shows do that all the time. They put The Punisher in Daredevil season 2, and now there's a Punisher show. Of course, you know, Marvel's Netflix universe doesn't exist anymore, but still. The idea being that they set up a successful show in a whole season and then said, all right, let's take season 2 and have some fun. That's clearly what they did. And as long as they are doing it well, and as long as, again, I care about the characters, then that's going to work for me. And can I just say that I absolutely adore Grogu? Grogu. It is the cutest fucking thing I have ever seen in my life.
Grogu.
They really knew what they were doing with this season when it comes to Grogu, because they put that motherfucker in every scene if they could, that he was just all over this. And it didn't get old. He really didn't. I just want to hug that thing. Episode 6 was directed by Robert Rodriguez, which I thought was really fun. I love that Favreau and Filoni, they're kind of like giving people these opportunities to dip their toe in a universe that they've probably always loved. Again, Carl Weathers made Star Wars. That's fucking awesome. That is so cool. But Robert Rodriguez made the shortest episode this season, to my knowledge, and this one really went ahead and introduced Boba Fett. Ripping off stormtroopers' faces, smashing their armor. It was extremely badass. Mando found this sort of shrine or ruins of like a Jedi temple or something, and he's placed Grogu there, and Grogu is sort of like reaching out to other Jedi and sending sort of like a beacon or something, and Slave One appears, and I was like, oh fuck. Because when it comes to characters in the original trilogy that pretty much everybody liked, Boba Fett always got fucked. He got to walk around and look cool and talk to Darth Vader for a second, then he fell in the Sarlacc pit. He didn't get to do anything, really. So I like the idea of seeing a character that everybody likes and feels kind of nostalgic for, but never really got to do all that much, do some cool shit. Episode 7 was directed by Rick Famuyiwa, who came back after directing some episodes on season 1. This one starred Bill Burr as Mayfield once again, and they needed him, because he used to be an Imperial, to break into an enemy base, because again, they're trying to break into something or, you know, follow some Imperials or siege on a building. It's a similar arc that many episodes have, but what made this one very special, for me anyway, was not just this epic fight atop these roving trucks that was really, really exciting. It was this conversation where Mayfield gets the chance to talk to someone who used to be one of his superiors, who he now hates. And the slow reveal of why he hates this guy, the massacre that took place of all of these troops that this guy doesn't seem to give a shit about, but Mayfield certainly does. And he's got to do it while the Mandalorian is sitting right next to him without his helmet on. because he needed to scan his face to get this signal sent. You could really feel the world opening up as he talked about his past as an Imperial. You got the perspective of somebody who hated being an Imperial. You got that a little bit with Finn in the sequel trilogy, but it was interesting here to see someone have that opportunity to look back on someone that he felt was a terrible leader. And I found that scene very tense. And I did not expect him to just start killing everybody. So that was kind of fun too. So let's talk about the season finale. They brought back Peyton Reed, which I did think was kind of strange. Now, again, they don't necessarily know the quality of the episodes as they are delivered. But again, I thought episode 2 of this season was the worst one. So to bring him back, I was a little concerned. Written by Jon Favreau, as most of the episodes this season were, but not all. I forgot to mention that at the end of Robert Rodriguez's episode, Moff Gideon abducts Baby Yoda, Grogu, and takes him up to his ship, and now Mando has to try to find him. They've stolen an Imperial ship, and they use that to break into Moff Gideon's ship, and they've got Bo-Katan and everybody else with them, and once they're in, they have to face off against the Dark Troopers. These things were actually really scary. I was getting some real Terminator vibes. I loved Ludwig Göransson's music for them. Again, another season filled with very different Star Wars music. It's nothing like anything that Michael Giacchino did for Rogue One, and it's certainly not anything like John Williams. It's totally different. It's completely original. He's doing a really fantastic job with the music. The fight between Mando and the Dark Trooper was kind of scary, especially the scene where he's getting his helmet caved into the wall and you're just imagining his face in there just getting smashed. And sequences like that make the fact that he wears a mask for the whole show better, because you're just imagining the pain that's on his face. He just looks like a rag doll being thrown around. If you saw his face, you could kind of connect with him, but since he's got that armor on while being pummeled like that, it kind of makes it scarier and more disturbing in a way. Moff Gideon shows up with the Darksaber and they have a battle. This fight was also really well done. I loved all the action throughout this entire season. It was all handled very well. It looked very realistic. There was never a dull moment when it came to the action sequences. But Mando is able to defeat Moff Gideon, which gives him access to the Darksaber. He doesn't realize this, but the Darksaber has to be won in combat. Bo-Katan really wanted that thing. And they realize that the only way for her to get it now is to actually defeat the Mandalorian. Now, I'm assuming she doesn't have to kill him, because Mando got it off Moff Gideon without killing him. So that's going to be interesting to see where they go forward with that arc, because that's left unresolved at the end of this episode. But as they're all trapped inside this room, and they think all these Dark Troopers are about to fucking kill him, an X-Wing shows up. As soon as that X-Wing showed up, I went, holy shit, who is this going to be? I think I know who this is going to be. Throughout the whole season, the point of this season was to bring Grogu to a Jedi. He says it in almost every episode. I've been quested to take him to one of his kind. We knew that. We knew at some point a Jedi would show up, and one did, Ahsoka Tano, and she said, I can't deal with it. All right, so someone must be showing up. I had all kinds of people in my mind, really obscure people from non-canon stuff, obscure people from canon stuff. I was like, will they find a way to resurrect Mace Windu and say that he's actually alive because we never saw his death? That would have been interesting. I thought maybe they could pull a Luke Skywalker, and they did. That green lightsaber ignites and destroyed brutally a bunch of Dark Troopers. A lot of people have referenced the ending of Rogue One as a comparison. That makes sense. I'm a Jedi like my father before me is something he said, and these two scenes viewed back to back absolutely show that he is the son of Anakin Skywalker without a doubt. I miss green lightsabers. I don't know why the new trilogy hated them so much, but I have always loved Luke in Return of the Jedi, and so to get some acknowledgement of that was, of course, exciting for the 6-year-old kid living inside me. But then he walks up to them, and he takes off his hood, and he was Luke from Masters of Terras Kasi. I can only assume that the creators know that that CGI is not finished. They must. That was not ready yet. That CGI ripped me out of the moment. It absolutely just took me out of the moment. Mando taking off his helmet to say goodbye to Grogu was very touching. Luke walking away and leaving Mando with our other heroes to figure out what they're going to do next, I thought was a pretty good ending. I do want to talk about fan service, and I want to talk about Luke, and I want to talk about some of the complaints that I've seen and praises in just a second. But first, let's talk about the after credits scene with Boba Fett killing a gigantic Bib Fortuna, officially converting Jabba's palace into Boba Fett's palace. And then we're told that a new show involving Boba Fett will be out next year. Now, some people have speculated that the Mandalorian's arc is done, and now it's going to be about Boba Fett. I don't think so, because they've got that dark saber Bo-Katan Moff Gideon thing going on that is completely unresolved. I'm assuming they'll figure out new stuff to do there. And it seems like there's going to be a new Boba Fett show. I mean, look, I get it, okay? I get that people are tired. People are exhausted. There's a lot of material out now for people to consume. I haven't watched any of the CW superhero shows. I didn't watch Iron Fist Season 2, Luke Cage Season 2. I kind of gave up on a lot of these shows because there was just so much. I didn't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Sometimes it's just like, fuck, enough. I get it. The Star Wars stuff exists. But in this case, I'm always going to give creatives the benefit of the doubt until I see it. I want to see the stuff first, and then I'll have an opinion. I'm not going to have an opinion on something I haven't seen that hasn't even been written yet, or is at least in the process of being written or filmed. I will wait till I've seen it, because that's what I would want people to do for any material that I put out. It's just general kindness. But let's talk about a few things regarding this finale. Most people seem to really like it. It's got like a 9.9 on IMDb or something, which I haven't seen anything like that since one of the last episodes of Breaking Bad. People clearly seem to dig this, but there's a lot of folks that I listen to who don't. And that's cool. I have concerns of my own, and I have to wait to see what they do with Mandalorian Season 3 and 4 if we get one. And like, let's say that there's 8 seasons of The Mandalorian, and 6 years from now, we've seen the whole show, and Luke Skywalker is in it for maybe 10 to 20 minutes, and that's it. Okay. I think looking back in retrospect at that point, we'll be like, that really wasn't fan service. It felt like it was fan service in the moment, but it really never came back again, and he was just sort of there to establish that he's there and training Jedi at the moment, which he is in canon, so that makes sense that he would want to train another Jedi. It makes sense. If that happens, I'm not going to have a problem with this. But if they keep bringing back CGI Star Wars Rogue Squadron 3 Rebel Strike Luke throughout the rest of the show, then I'm going to be like, pump the brakes, guys, okay? I like what we're doing with Mando. I like this new world we've established. Let's focus on that. But if Luke shows up at the end of a season finale and cuts through some Dark Troopers and fades into obscurity again, okay. And here's how I view fan service. And I've talked about this before, especially in my review for Dr. Sleep, because the last 20 to 30 minutes of Dr. Sleep was a lot of fan service for The Shining. But they still had a 2-hour movie before that to establish the characters, the world, and the story, and make us care. And Dr. Sleep did that for me. That's the hard part. For anyone looking at a blank screen trying to write something, filling that up with things that make us care, and then also towards the end saying, let's have some fun for a minute, and then you do that, and you've made us care, and you've set up these characters, and you've set up a world, and now at the end you're going to have a little fun for a minute, because you've earned it. It's why I didn't mind seeing Boba Fett, or the Clone Wars characters, or Ahsoka, or Luke Skywalker, because Season 1 of The Mandalorian did all the work. Boba Fett was not in Season 1. Neither was Luke Skywalker or Ahsoka Tano. And Dave Filoni directed 2 episodes in Season 1. I imagine he thought it might be cool to have Ahsoka, but they're like, let's set up our shit first. Let's earn it. Then we'll have some fun in Season 2. And that's what they did. So I'm okay with fan service as long as you earn it. As long as you set up characters that I actually care about and want to watch, and stories that are fun and exciting, and they've done that. Now, we've seen Disney go back to episodes of The Mandalorian and fix things that were a mistake. They've taken out some people who accidentally appeared in a shot with CGI, and they've re-uploaded that episode in that way. So it's possible, probably not going to happen, that over the years they might add more work to Luke's face for future viewers. I mean, I know George Lucas was sitting at home going, oh, the special effects need a special edition. And this is one of the reasons I love The Mandalorian show, both seasons, because it has elements of the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, as well as prequel lore that I love. It takes the best of both of those worlds, and for that reason, the show can really benefit from that. So Favreau, Filoni, just keep doing what you're doing, because you guys did a really good job with Season 2, despite some minor issues I had with it. And as long as Season 3 isn't like fan service everywhere, okay, I'm okay with seeing Luke and Ahsoka, and that's all fine, as long as you earn it. And they did the hard part. So I don't know what faction of Star Wars fan I am. I certainly love nostalgia, but I also love new stuff. And I also like simplicity. And The Mandalorian Season 2 was extremely simple. The original Star Wars movies were very simple. The best Star Wars is simple. They're just Republic serials with heroes and villains fighting. It's great when they can go above that and really push some complex emotion into it. But that doesn't always work, and it's not going to work for every show or movie. And I'm really loving what they did with Mandalorian Season 2, and I did like it more than Season 1 because there wasn't a single episode in this show that I didn't like. Season 1 did have one that, I think it was episode 5. It was so bad. So it was nice to see an entire season of at least good episodes and a few that were legit great. I'm going to give The Mandalorian Season 2 an A-. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching, and thank you for bearing with me as I talked about my thoughts on fan service and fan reviews and just sort of sitting back and enjoying something again. That's one other thing I do want to say. Let's try to stop convincing people who disagree with us that they're wrong. Just let people enjoy things, or just let people hate things. It doesn't really matter. It has no effect on you. Just let people like. After this year, man, I'm very happy to like something. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. Look forward to more reviews very soon, and if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmannized.